don't, who cares what people think? That's what I want to tell people. At the end of the day, it's all about how it sounds. It's not about how many luffs it is, like it's not about numbers on a screen. It's about what's pleasing to the ears.
What's up, y'all? I'm Kelly Clarkson.
Hey, it's Steve McRae.
Hey, I'm Josh from the band Need to Breathe.
I'm Olivia Luddy.
We are so excited to welcome to the Kelly Alexander Show, Akon. Hi.
What up, Kels?
Hey, I'm Judy Gold.
And I'm hanging out with the Kelly Alexander Show.
This is Jordan, and I'm hanging out on the Kelly Alexander Show.
I'm Rob, and I'm hanging out on the Kelly Alexander Show.
I'm hanging out with the Kelly Alexander Show right now.
Jealous?
We are very excited here on the Kelly Alexander Show to welcome a Canadian recording artist, songwriter, producer, label boss. That sounds fancy. Kayla Diamond, who has over 60 million cross-platform streams. Kayla, it's amazing to have you on the Kelly Alexander Show. Thanks for spending time with us.
Thanks for having me. It's really fun.
So I always like to get a bearing for where things started. So how did music start for you? Like, how did you find music, and has it always been the path?
No, it definitely was not the path. Law school was my path. I was supposed to be a lawyer. My brother mentioned to me once, he's like, I want you to take over when I'm, 50 and want to retire. And I'm like, okay, sure. But I guess, I've always been in, rural conservatory piano and guitar, and I taught myself drums, and I've always been super heavily obsessed with playing instruments and like learning new instruments. So when I was a kid, I was always doing that kind of thing. Instead of going out, like I was at the piano on a Saturday night. And yeah, I mean, music, I never thought I could do it professionally, because in my head, it's like, if you're not Green Day, then you're like a nobody. So I was like, I didn't think I had any talent that was better than an average person until I actually put a song out onto YouTube, and I got offerings to be signed, and I was like, what the hell does this mean? And then I ended up leaving law school, doing the artist thing, having the success as the artist, and then sort of pivoting into production.
Has family always been supportive of you? Like especially coming from a family of lawyers, like what were there trepidation going on?
Not at all. Like, to be honest, I think I think the general consensus was that there's too many lawyers in the family and maybe we need some diversity here. But I remember standing in the law school lobby, and I the first one of the first people I called was my sister-in-law, and I was like, "Hey, hey, hey, hey. What do you think of me leaving law school?" And she was like, "Go do it. Go do it. You're talented." Like, people believed in my talent, and so it gave me the confidence to like really pursue this dream.
Amazing. That's yeah, because I know a lot of artists don't have family support, or it's like conditional or whatever. So I think that's amazing that they were there for you right away. And so when you left law school, like what do you think was the, I'll say big break, but that took you to a level where the ball really started rolling for you as an artist?
So the this is really rare for artists where it happens on the first single that you put out with a label. Um, but the first single that we put out, Carnival Hearts, like it went straight to radio, straight top 30, iHeartRadio Future Star, all of that kind of thing. And it was like, it kind of went from this like, okay, well, I haven't put any music out ever, and then all of a sudden my first single's going like, so it kind of took a second to sort of get everybody caught up because we kind of didn't expect it to happen that way. And then, the shows started coming in and all this, and it was really, really great. So that's what kind of snowballed the artist career, even though the artist career was lived for about 2 years, but it was like the fastest, most quick, crazy 2 years of my life. And then the follow-up single, What You're Made Of, went top 10. So then it was just kind of like, wow, this is amazing, but where do we go from here? What happens? And then COVID happened, and then it was like, okay, let's go back to the drawing board here.
And so how for actually, and I did want to ask you, I think one question before we go to next steps. You grew up in Toronto, and I'm always fascinated because most people where I'm from in Montreal go to Toronto, but you have moved to my hometown of Montreal and are fostering your career here. And I know you're in both places, but again, most people either leave here to go to Toronto or they go to LA or New York. So why Montreal? I'm fascinated by this.
So Montreal I had never even been to Montreal until I went on tour in 2018. And Montreal is just because of my wife. My wife has a really beautiful, thriving business in Montreal, and she owns a dance studio with over like 500 students. And she's an incredible choreographer, and her whole family's here as well. So I was like, over the pandemic, we looked at the real estate market also. We were like, wait, it's you could buy a house here for the price of my condo in Toronto. So let's try it. And we did. We bought a house and built a home, and we have a child here, and this is kind of my home base now, Montreal. And first of all, no shade to Toronto, but the food here is way better.
I agree.
The restaurant like the nightlife, the restaurants, got nothing on Toronto. But I am in Toronto every other week. So I get this nice balance, but it's actually what it's done for my career is it's very much expanded it because I work out of when I'm in Montreal, I work out of Planet Studios, and there are artists coming through all the time, and the Montreal music scene is incredible and thriving. It's some of the best music is made in Montreal.
Now, tell us then, being that artist, having that success for the 2 years, then pandemic hits. Where do you make the decision to start producing? Was it because everybody was sitting at home and couldn't go out, or how did that roll?
Yeah. I was also at a point in my career where I was getting frustrated with my artist career. So I just didn't feel good. I felt really icky. One of the things I really hated as an artist, and this is so not in my personality at all, but there was this constant sort of comparing myself to other artists, and the highs are really high, the lows are even lower. And so it was a struggle for me as an artist to have to experience that, and it was really bad on my mental health. And so I always knew that I was like, I really love crafting music. I really love the artistry of production, but I'm really intimidated by like learning how to do it because it looks really complicated and it looks scary and all of this. And on top of that, only men can be producers. Like what? I've never met a female producer. So over the course of the pandemic, from literally 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day, I was like, I have all this free time. I'm gonna learn how to use Logic Pro, which is the audio software. And I learned it, and then I was like, oh my God, this is really cool. And then I kind of snowballed and started taking sessions with people, and I was like, this is the shit. This is where I am, you know?
That's amazing. Now, I think that's amazing. And what advice, I'm going to ask this now. I was going to ask this later, but I'm going to ask this now. Like, what advice would you want to give to a female songwriter, artist who wants to do like, because yeah, I think that is such a pervasive, because I actually, we'll talk about this later maybe, but I had an artist career for a bit when I was in Toronto,
So do
and
I.
yeah, we'll talk. So I remember, having two male producers, and they were great. But I was writing the songs like in conjunction with them, but like I felt a bit frustrated because at the time, like I was like, yeah, I like chicks don't do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, or whatever. And I was still trying to finish my university degree anyway, so I didn't do what you did, which was take, 12 hours a day to do that. But what advice do you have to someone now on the come up? Because these tools are also in place, and I think they're more accessible now than they were maybe when I would have had the opportunity to do it. So yeah, what do you want to say?
So I was at a songwriting camp a couple years ago, and I was talking to an A&R, and we were at Universal, and he looks at me and he's like, you're the only female producer that we have here in this camp. And I was like, that's incredible. He goes, but it's not for lack of reaching out to women who want to produce. It's that every female producer that we've contacted said, I'm not ready yet. And so he was like, the difference is like we've reached out to male producers who are on the same level, but they'll take that and they'll say, absolutely, I'll do it, right? He's like, there's a difference. He's like, I commend you on the fact that you're ballsy enough to be like, yeah, of course I'm gonna do this. He's like, it's not for lack of female producers. It's for the confidence level of female producers. And I can completely understand that because I was always a producer. When I was in high school, I was messing around on GarageBand when nobody was home and figuring out, different mic techniques of recording and stuff, but I was embarrassed about it because I saw all these like men in the studio who knew about, analog gear and stuff like that, and knew about, numbers on the EQ and all that stuff. So I think a lot of women, and I'm speaking for a lot of women who are in the closet about their producer hat, we're scared of what guys will say. We're scared of being challenged. I don't know if you've ever like been talking to a guy and you're like, "Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Metallica," and then they go, "Okay, yeah, well, what's your favorite album?" You get this like question at you that you're just like, "Okay, well, now I have to tell you every song in order for you to believe that I'm a genuine fan." It's like it's just another hurdle that like I think and women just don't want to deal with that when it comes to mansplaining. And
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, I'm a subject of a tremendous amount of mansplaining, but I think people are starting to realize that like I think it's funny. So I think just the confidence level and not just who cares what people think? That's what I want to tell people. Is like if you are a producer and you are making things that sound good, at the end of the day it's all about how it sounds. It's not about how many luffs it is, like it's not about numbers on a screen. It's about what's pleasing to the ears, so nobody knows what they're doing really.
I'm so glad you said that because I think that is because I'm also in martial arts and I just want to use this as an example is like I see there are certain like female martial artists when they're on the come up where like they will try and they will be risky with moves or something, but like I think so many of us are nervous or scared or like don't think we can pull it off where I think maybe in the male brain it's like, "Oh, I'm just going to try this." And then they try to do whatever the heck they're trying to do. And whether they land it or not, but they've tried it and then they're going to try to make it better. And so I think it's the same thing. Like I think there's this pervasive attitude for women sometimes and girls, as you're growing that like, oh no, guys are going to do that. And then you fall into line. So I'm super glad you pointed that out. And I really hope that the women listening just jump into the pool, like just jump into the pool and do what they need to do. I wanted to talk to you too about being a producer for other artists. Uh, do you enjoy the songwriting more? Do you enjoy putting the song together more? Like, and do you enjoy trying to A&R them?
I do. That is my favorite part of this business is like when it's kind of like cracking the code of a puzzle when you're writing a song, and when it all comes together and you're like you look at your lyrics and you're like, wow, every single lyric has a very deliberate place in the song. The hook is good, and when a song is well crafted, it's like the best payoff. It's the best feeling in the world, and it starts with the song. So like I love producing a really good song. If the song is not good, the production becomes a lot harder because now you have to carry the weight of the song. You have to try and make it a hit when really like it's got to start with the bones of the song.
Do you, when you are working on stuff, because I obviously know you do like, obviously using Logic, you're using digital tools. Um, do you have that thing in your head where when you are working on a song, like if it sounds good with just guitar and voice or piano and voice, like that's your barometer, that's your, yeah.
Yeah, like the campfire test, right?
Yes.
Like exactly. Yeah. So I always try and make sure that's got to be the barometer. If it passes the campfire test, then incredible. That's amazing, especially when it comes to even EDM songs. But, you do have the odd song where there's an exception to that rule where, the hook might be a vocal chop, um like Gold by Kiara, right? You can't get you that there's no way that can pass the campfire test.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it could because it's good.
Yeah.
But it's, so majority of songs they have to pass the campfire
And
test.
do you, when you're mastering, do you do the car test where you sit in the car and play it in the speakers?
Oh yeah. I
Okay.
make sure to do it on multiple different cars. So like I'll tell my friends, "Hey, let's listen to this," and like the bass is not good in my car, but the bass is better in someone else's, and listen on your grossest pair of headphones also.
Amazing. Now, let's talk a little bit about, you've worked with so many amazing artists like Armin van Buuren, Tiesto, Hardwell. Do you have, and you've also done stuff with Strumbellas, which we're going to talk about, but like, is there a specific genre that you like working in that feeds your soul the most? Are you happy to bounce around to pop, to EDM, to like more pop rock?
Yeah, so I think genre is really just dependent on production because at the core of every good song is a well-written pop song, well-structured song, with a good hook, with a good strong hook. So at the core of all my songwriting is pop. That's the structure, and so whether it becomes an EDM song, whether it becomes a production, like it's all production based. So that's really what it is, just pop.
And which artists like are still on your bucket list that you'd like to work with? Like who's on the list?
Who's on the list? I've definitely been a huge fan lately of Lauren Spencer Smith. I absolutely love it. I love everything she's doing, so she's definitely on my list of people to work with. Um, there's a lot. I love Charlotte Cardin. She's definitely one that I'd love to work with too. Charlotte, if you're listening, we're both in Montreal, kind of. So come on. Um, yeah, and then there's just a bunch of different ones that I love. I kind of love every kind of music. When somebody writes a good song that hits home, I'm like, oh, let's do it.
What's your take on, we talked about before about you moving to Montreal, and then I had mentioned, so many artists moved to Los Angeles. Like recently, I just did an interview with Zach Zoya, Montreal artist, who has made the move to Los Angeles. Has that ever called to you to go down there like on a longer term basis, or are you happy to keep doing what you're doing in Canada?
Yeah, I mean, the thing with LA is I find that a lot of artists do this thing where they're like, the goal is to move to LA, right? And then when they get to LA, they're kind of like, "Whoa, what's the plan now? Like, I was a really big artist in Canada, but like here I'm nothing. And here I have to be like, no, 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 but I promise, like, I'm a really big artist over there in Canada. And so that game to me is just not for me. I'm not interested. When there's opportunity for me in LA, like there is, right? I do frequent LA often, but I don't stay for too long just because it's 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 nice, but I find that the culture there is just different. It's different in terms of I'm like okay, let's get in, do what we got to do, get out, pitch the song, all this stuff. But I will be going for a longer period of time this summer because I thankfully I do have a lot of work that needs to be done there. So
Amazing.
when I believe in going somewhere when it's calling you, but not going there expecting things to happen just because you went there.
You're full of good advice.
Thanks. I just don't want people to be disappointed.
Um, Now you've had songs placed on, TV shows. You've done work on Love Alarm, The Ultimatum on Netflix. You've been like stuff on The Voice on NBC. Uh, how was that to get your foot in the television door?
It's really cool because the television door, there's multiple facets of it, right? There's like those types of placements are called sync placements where the song's already written, it's already out, and then you have a sync agency just pitching it to these different networks and saying, "Hey, use our song." And then what really intrigues me is the customization of music for film and television because it will really set the tone and set the scene. So I've been doing a lot more of that part as well.
And does that call to you as much as working with artists, or is that just like a really fun dessert?
Ooh, yeah, I would say you're right. That it is a really fun dessert. It's a muscle to flex.
Okay.
That's what I would say. Like I did Rebel Wilson's new movie Bride Hard comes out on June 20th, and one thing that's really cool that I got to do was they had a scene already. I can't tell you what the scene was, but they had a scene already and there was some mouthing to the song uh, during that scene, and they had to replace the song. So I was called to step in and sort of work backwards and score to picture because now we have these mouth movements and we have movements in the scene that are to the BPM of what was the original song and to the lyrics of what was the original song. So I had to like look in and do a bad lip reading of what I thought they were saying and create and actually score to picture an original piece of music.
Amazing. That's crazy.
Yeah,
And
so that was fun.
we have to talk about your label stuff. So, why did
Mm.
you decide to start a label? Because I don't know how you have enough hours in the day to get everything done.
I don't know either because like just being a mom, it's like you feel like I have no time ever. But so the label, honestly, I always wanted to. I always knew that it was like a dream to like run a label or even be part of a label to some capacity. But what really like lit a fire under my bum was I was working with an artist a couple of years ago, and I I was like really like 20 songs deep in with this artist, like really integral in this artist's development and sound. And I was there for the conversations of like, oh, I'm trying to do this. I want this song to come out. My label really doesn't want it. Um, and so I was sort of helping this artist build their confidence and sort of explaining the business to them and explaining that the trajectory of like what they should be doing and helping them find their real sound. And I noticed that the label, there was kind of, it wasn't even the label, it was just that the team around this artist kind of sucked, frankly, and they were picking songs that were not this artist, and the songs were flopping. And I was like, well, you picked the wrong song. You should be picking this genre, and this is more you. So I started seeing through that I actually had a knack for artist development and sonic development, if that makes sense, like developing the sonic brand of the artist. And so I was like, wait, I'm actually kind of good at this. Like, I could do this. And if I did this with this one artist, I can do it with many others. So that's when I started doing that kind of thing. And then I have Colossal, and we do one artist at a time. So it's hyper focused, and I'm the producer, I'm the songwriter. We bring in obviously other producers and other songwriters as well, because we do what's right for the artist. But building artistry and real artist brands from the ground up. So that's what Colossal does. But at the same time, I'm doing it as a producer with every artist I work with. So I get that feed for my soul.
Now we've talked a lot about you being this artist, whether it's producing, songwriting, being an actual like recording artist. But obviously with what you're doing, and I know from my experience as well, like the art is what you want to be doing, but you have to be businesswoman also.
Mhm.
So how do you juggle being artist Kayla and boss Kayla?
It's the age-old question. When I'm in an executive meeting, they know me as an executive. So I'm proud of that, and I'm able to say, and I'm also able to sit back and, let my team guide me as well. So it's a really big teamwork kind of aspect. There's things that I do not know about at all. My partner who runs Colossal with me is the former president of Ultra. So been in this business way longer than me, has seen a lot of things. So I'm very fortunate to like really learn from all of his wisdom. But in terms of being an executive in the room with um, other producers, I try and not come on too strong as an executive, because I don't want to be that person being like, you need to post more on socials. So there's a fine balance between it all. But at the end of the day, everyone knows that yes, I do have an executive role, but my heart is with the artist. Always, and first and foremost, my heart is fighting for songwriters' rights, fighting for producers' rights, fighting for artists. So that's pretty much
Now,
it.
that's which is perfect because I think, again, I think as a female, I think as someone in the Canadian music industry, like this is all important to help foster and keep and maintain and push forward the industry in Canada. So that's fantastic. And I did want to ask you too, we talked a bit about artists that you'd have on your bucket list. Are there any Canadian pop artists right now, apart from Charlotte Cardin, that that speaks to you that you wish you like Alessia Cara, or you know what I mean? Like, is there, and obviously because you have a foothold in Toronto, like I'm sure you know a lot of these people anyway.
Yeah, I mean, speaks to me in terms of like I love their music.
Yeah, and ever wanting, because I think there's so many great Canadian artists, and some of them like Alessia blow up across the world, as we know, like Drake and then Justin, and then Alessia is doing that, and there's obviously other artists and rock bands that are doing the same thing. When you do take on an artist for your label or one that you're even producing, like, do you view them in terms of global, or do you view them first in terms of like how can we get them successful in Canada?
Oh no. I mean, I love Canada and I know Canada, but I just think success, broad amount of success. And as much as I love Canadian radio, I absolutely do. Fans are universal. Fans, it's not enough in this business to just have fans in Canada. So when I think of somebody, what's funny is you mentioned the Strumbellas. Is I have been a fan of their music since I was in law school. So like I remember one day my sister sent me this band and she was like, "You gotta listen to this music. It's incredible. Wow." So I was like jamming to them, and then um I first met them, I like a few members of them in 2017 at like Andy Kim's Christmas concert, and uh, they invited me to sing Spirits on stage with them, and I was like, "This is the I made it moment." I was like, "This is the coolest thing in the world." And then sort of we developed this beautiful relationship where I got asked to come in and write some songs with them as well. And what was cool about that was in that session, I was not even approaching this as a producer or a songwriter. I was approaching this as a fan. So I was going, wow, I have the ultimate fan experience here where I could say, what do I want to hear from the Strumbellas? And so that kind of put me in a really cool position in that room, and we did it. Like I was like, okay, Hold Me is incredible, and it was on the top 20 in CBC, and so but that was like the type of song I would have loved to hear from that band. So I was able to do that. So it kind of already happened, to answer your question. And I try and, having learned that was a really valuable asset to have, to be a fan of the music
Hmm.
while you're in the room with an artist, I started to try and really take a deep dive into a lot of people's music before I work with them, to really connect with what do I absolutely love about their artistry.
Is there an artist or producer right now that you would like, if you could, switch places with for just one day, like just to see how their life rolls out and like, yeah, like, what it would be like?
An artist or producer, I love this. Well, artist, I would always obsessed with Lana Del Rey, obsessed with her. I would love to take a little bit of a peek into Tate McRae's life for a day, just because she's so multifaceted and she's an incredible dancer, and she just seems like she's on the go all the time. But producer wise, I would love to just be a fly on the wall in like Oak Felder's studio, or really like Jack Antonoff. I think, Jack Antonoff is the GOAT, but who taught me how to produce was videos of Oak Felder.
Isn't he worked with Alessia, didn't he? Like, didn't he
Yeah,
do
he
her
did. He
first
did
album?
Scars to
Yeah,
Be Beautiful. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's amazing. Um, what is coming up next for you? Like, what do you want your fans and new fans to know about Kayla Diamond?
Well, about Kayla, I think I would want to be known as the vessel who plugs other artists. So I wouldn't even say like about Kayla Diamond. I would say about people Kayla Diamond is working with. Um, so I think really like paying attention to Amari. I think he's really fantastic, and I think he's really gonna pop. And we have really exciting things that are coming up around him. So follow him on socials.
Hmm.
You can also follow, there's another incredible artist I work with named Sam James, and he has another rollout that's coming. I work with a bunch of different artists that I can't talk about now because I'll let them do their own rollout. Um, but definitely keep a lookout for some more film and television coming your way, and yeah, lots more from Colossal.
Amazing. And Amari, that's your first signing, right, to the label?
Yeah.
Okay. And is Amari stuff coming out this year? Like we'll
Yep.
get okay.
Yeah,
Amazing.
he's on he's actually he dropped his first single in January, his second single a couple weeks ago, and it's called Teeth. So that's out right now. You can go check out the music video. And
Mhm.
then his next single is coming up in a little bit.
Very cool. And I did have to ask you this, just about social media. What is your thoughts on it? Do you have a specific platform that you like? And how do you think it advances an artist's career in global terms?
Yeah, this is a great question. Honestly, you see a lot of major labels actually kind of getting rid of a lot of people on their marketing team because they realize that there's no such plan without TikTok. And the person running the TikTok is the artist themselves. So now artists have to be their own marketing team. And this is the direct way to make fans, letting fans into your life through these little clips, right? So it's the biggest role in promoting music. Absolutely. So when an artist comes to me and they're like, I don't want to do this social media thing, my answer to them is, then you don't want it enough. You don't want this artistry enough. And that's just the reality of it. Because I saw it with myself when I was an artist and TikTok just came about, and I was like, I hate this. I can't stand promoting my music, any of this. Like, my story's not interesting enough to tell. I don't want to give this part of my life. That's what actually made me realize I don't want to really be an artist. But then when I started posting really fun videos of me having fun with production, that's when I started getting like 100,000 followers on TikTok, and I was like, wait, people see authenticity. They see me, okay, this is me having fun in front of the camera. So social media it's really hard to fake. You've got to be your authentic self on camera and inviting people in to join the come up with you. This is what I tell artists. Like, you are on the come up. You are always on the come up, even if you're mid-level, right? Inviting fans, making new fans, bring them into your story. And that's really what is the most important part.
Amazing. It has been such a joy to have you on the show. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much for having me.
That is a producer, label boss, recording artist, and songwriter Kayla Diamond. Don't forget to check her out on her own social media at the Kayla Diamond on both TikTok and Instagram, and support her as much as you can. And don't forget to check out her artist, of course, Amari. Thanks, Kayla.
Thank you.
Hey, it's Kelly Alexander, and thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Kelly Alexander Show, so you are the first in line for all the cool content coming your way.